Hi everyone, cross-platform app development is something I really love. To be able to create something once and have it run on both Android and iOS is pretty awesome. And so today I'm going to talk about two big players in this game, Flutter and React Native, and which will I think will win in 2022. So first I'll cover some of the pros and cons of both. So first, React Native. A positive with that is it's very similar to React, so it's very accessible to web developers who want to create an app. It's also open source with a wide community of developers, and it is JavaScript based, so that's a positive because JavaScript is a very widely used language and most developers know at least a little bit of it. Some of the cons of React Native is that in general the size of the app is a bit larger than Flutter or native apps, and also it tends to perform a little bit worse when it comes to memory and speed. So some pros of Flutter over React Native is the size of the app, and I'll go into more detail on that soon with some actual live apps that I have. It uses Dart, which has some beneficial language features, and it performs better than React Native in terms of speed and memory. It's open source as well, so its community can continue to grow. So some of the cons of Flutter is that it's written in the Dart language, which is not as widely used as a language when you compare it to JavaScript. And I found personally defining a layout is not the most straightforward. If you look at their their GitHub repo, you can see there's actually quite a large number of open issues as well, which is not ideal for production apps and probably why it's not used as widely for production apps. So just as I was saying earlier, I would do a comparison on the size of the app. So I have 3 similar apps, and on the App Store they had sizes of 10 megabytes for native and Swift. That increased to 50 megabytes for Flutter and 100 megabytes for React Native. So you can see that similar apps in React Native do tend to be bigger than Flutter apps. And that's actually exasperated if you look at the Google Play Store, where I had an app that was 4 megabytes in native and Kotlin, another one that was of similar complexity, which was 7 megabytes in Flutter, but the React Native app was 60 megabytes, which is almost 10 times larger than the Flutter equivalent. So yeah, I found the size of the apps is quite a big differentiator, and it actually does make a difference, particularly when you're talking about mobile apps, because a lot of people are out there using data, so you don't want to put them off downloading your app because it's got a large size. There's also more limited space on phones in general. So yeah, that's another reason why you need to keep an eye on your app size. So I figured I'd take a look at what's trending a bit as well, because you kind of need to know who's out there and what they're doing. If you can't find a developer for something, then it's going to be pretty hard and possibly pretty pricey to use that technology. And both React Native and Flutter are actually quite solid choices, so it does come into play. So I'm just going to show you this video. So I've looked on Stackshare at Flutter and React Native to compare them. And in general, React Native has a lot more followers. I'll send the link below so that you can have a look through this in your own time. But it basically talks about different features that developers like about Flutter and React Native, and also a bit more about who's using it and what the Git repo stats are and some additional comments. So yeah, I'll link that so you can have a look through in your own time and build your own decision on what's best for you. Yeah. So if I go look at the trends, I can see that Flutter is trending up and has quite a reasonable amount of percentage of questions on Stack Overflow. React Native is also trending up, but it's sort of steadied a bit. It doesn't have as many questions, and I think that's possibly because some of their questions will fall under React. So this is the big one. The number of issues on the Flutter repo is over 5,000, and I've actually encountered bugs in my own time doing apps. There's 950 contributors, so that shows that there's a good community there, and 133,000 stars. So there's quite a lot of people interested in it. It's not a technology that's going away anytime soon, and it's backed by Google. React Native, by contrast, has 1.9 K issues, which is a bit better than Flutter. And it's actually got over 2,000 contributors, so it's got an even bigger community. You can even see it's got 100,000 stars, so also quite active there. I'm showing you React just because that also is what React Native is based on, and it only has a small number of issues compared to Flutter, and also, once again, quite a large number of contributors, so quite active. So after showing you all of that, you can draw your own conclusions, but my predictions for 2022 are that Flutter will continue to grow. Its app size is a good benefit over React Native, as is its performance. But if you're creating a simple app, then React Native should be performant enough. It's not terribly slow. It's just you wouldn't be wanting to do anything super intensive in it. With regards to using Flutter, even I encountered a bug or two while building a very simple app using Flutter. So I wouldn't use it for a complicated app at present because you never know what you're going to find. You can see that there's a lot of open issues on the GitHub repo, so there's a lot of work still to be done on Flutter, but it has a lot of potential. Additionally, there's a lot more React Native developers out there than Flutter developers, so it's easier to fill a role for a React Native developer. If you are trying to fill a role for a Flutter developer, it might take you a while to fill that role for one thing, and so that would be it would mean that it would take a lot longer to get your app out there because you've got a role sitting around waiting to be filled. Overall, I found React Native easier to develop in, but this opinion will differ between developers. The main reason I found it easier is I regularly work with React, so it's quite similar, and it's basically a very seamless transition if you're a web developer to be able to create apps using React Native. In the future, I see Flutter overtaking React Native, but I don't see it happening this year. I think there's still a long way to go before it's ready for big production-ready apps. So that's my thoughts. Either option will be a good option. It's just whatever suits your business. They'll both be around for quite a long time with quite a big and active community, so no cause for concern there.